I think today's show is going to be phenomenal, pun intended.
You get the corny pun of the day prize, my friend. But that is true. We are going to talk about the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Yeah, he's got. Do you know what? When I think about it, that's a complete awesome career. Do you know what I mean? From TNA to New Japan to WWE, the guy's been pretty much everywhere. To be honest,
he is. He has been, and we can kind of go over that from start to now. But yeah, I kind of did a little research this morning, kind of prepping for the show, and this dude really has been everywhere the past 20 years in wrestling.
of course. So, as Mr. Isaac mentioned there, we're talking about the phenomenal AJ Styles highs and lows. We've got 10 talking points. Let's see, obviously, what makes the list. But as always, roll the intro. This is, of course, your Saturday night, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world of, course, the magic of wrestling. I'm, of course, the Liam Wakeland.
And I'm the American half of this equation here. Flip to the other screen. We're kind of testing out some different visuals here because that's how high budget of a production we have here. We decided to shift the windows left to right. But I am the F1 expert. I'm Mr. Isaacs. Hello, everybody.
Of course. And Mr. Isaacs, I mean, I've saw that you've been obviously martial arts training again this week. How's it going?
Oh, dude, it's great, man. I had a really good session Thursday night. My cardio is getting better. Like I'm able to keep up better with the rolling, and I'm starting to hit submissions a little bit now. Like I've been able to sink in a couple of chokes. I almost had one of the blue belts and an arm bar, but he wiggled out of it. But I'm going to get that guy eventually. But yeah, it was a great session, a lot of fun. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is just absolutely changing my life for the better, and I absolutely love it.
And how many weeks, obviously, now has it been doing this?
I've been doing this since March, bro. Since like the first week of March. So I'm 3 months in.
There you go. And you said yourself there, you feel a bit like better in yourself. Are you talking like mentally and also physically as well?
All the above, yeah, man. Like it's such a mental boost, like a positive boost. The camaraderie you get from meeting new people, and just the physical aspect of like learning how to fight and like tightening. Like my bicep is like so like sore today from like trying to choke people Thursday night. Like it's still sore. Like, you know, I was grappling with this monstrous brown belt. I mean, this guy's like 6'5". He's an absolute monster. And I was rolling with him, and obviously, you know, he was kind of going easy on me because he could have killed me in 10 seconds if he wanted to. But you know, I had taken him, I'd take his back. Like we started it with me on his back, and you know, I had what's called the Gable grip, like wrapped around him, and I was trying to choke him. And you know, of course I couldn't choke him because he's too fucking good. But yeah, I mean, and now like my arms are sore from trying to choke this gigantic monster. So like that was 2 nights ago, and like my biceps are still sore.
I'm curious to learn about the grading thing. So like, do you have to like, is it like a grading thing to like go up to like the next belt?
Yeah, so basically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu does it a little differently. The Gracie family set up a different style of belt system. It's kind of based on the Japanese martial arts, but you don't really test for it. You just kind of show up to class, roll, do competitions if you want to do that, and eventually your instructor will just say, "Hey, I think Jeremy is at this level now, so I'm going to promote him." And there's white, blue, purple, brown, and black are the different belts in jiu-jitsu, and each one takes about a year or two to get to. And you get stripes in between that kind of just like signify your progress. I mean, right now I'm a 0 stripe white belt because I'm just 3 months in. But yeah, I mean, you know, we've got mostly blue belts in the class, but there's a couple purples. a couple of browns, and the only black belt's the instructor.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean it's a good time to be had. I love it. And as long as my body holds up, I mean, I'm 40 years old, but as long as my body holds up, I intend to stick with it till I'm a black belt.
I was just about to say, you kind of like, you kind of know what I'm going to ask. I'm thinking, what's the goal for you? Is it just get as high as you can, or is it just more like mentally, just like to get in a better frame of mind? What's the overall goal?
Well, overall improvement, mentally and physically, is the ultimate goal here. But if
Mhm.
I had to put a quantitative goal on it, it's black belt. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I figure, I'm 40 years old. I'm about to turn 41. I figure I've got about 10 good years if my body holds up. So by age 50, I want to be a black belt. Like that's what I'm going for.
I love the fact you said my body holds up.
If my body holds up, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shit that can happen to a man between age 40 and 50. So hopefully I'm okay, but we'll see.
Oh dear, but do you know what, mate? Like I say, I see the things you share and stuff like that, and like I said, you feel a lot better in yourself and stuff like that. So I'm rooting for you, man. Obviously, I want you to get obviously the high as you can. And the fact you said you feel better in yourself, yeah, you're feeling the effects now, but in the long run, it's for the best.
It's totally worth it, bro. And I appreciate the words of encouragement there. It's totally worth it, man. Anybody out there that's like thinking about trying it, do it. Go out there and do it, man. And it's probably one of the best things I've done in my adult life is like walking into that gym for the first time and trying a class.
Yeah, if it wasn't for my obviously problems with my left leg, I would probably go back to karate, which I did when I was younger and stuff. But because obviously medical and stuff like that, I obviously can't compete and stuff like that, which is kind of sad because I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like the same premise of what you're doing, but it's obviously different formats, different grading, different. There's a lot of different things to be fair, but it's the same premise in a way.
Yeah, karate it's got the same system of wearing the gi and the belt structure and all that, but it is very stylistically different than Brazilian jiu-jitsu for sure.
Hmm. But but like I said, yeah, I mean, for me, it's been obviously a typical workout week, stuff like that. We've obviously got more interviews booked in the pipeline. Interview number 40 is next week, which I cannot believe.
Wow, 40 interviews. Man,
Uh,
like you're killing it, brother. You're absolutely killing it. You're amazing at what you do. You got to get all the recognition in the world around here, man, because like you're killing it. You're bringing views in. You're interviewing all these guys from the NBC. It's just a matter of time before you talk to the next Osprey. I mean, seriously, it's just a matter of time. You're going to talk to somebody that's going to break it huge, and you're going to be
mhm.
one of the first people to ever talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, Canada Dry said to me yesterday, and it kind of made me think. He said that it doesn't matter where the people's placed in the card, and straight away I went no, because it doesn't matter if this person's 3 months in, 6 months in, 10 years in, 20 years in. Do you know what I mean? It's still great to learn their experience, no matter how far they are in their career. I mean, prime example is I spoke to Vucic, who I've seen grow from when he first started to where he is now, and he's only been wrestling 2 years, but he's had so many great moments. I mean, I feel like that guy's really gonna he's going to be that next level. Do you know what I mean? If he keeps at it, which I think he will do.
Yeah, and I hope so, man. I mean, that would be fantastic. It's awesome that you're interviewing these guys as they're coming up. It kind of reminds me of like the old school Art of Wrestling podcast that Colt Cabana used to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's defunct now. I don't think he does it anymore, but you know, he would interview wrestlers, like independent wrestlers that very likely you may have never even heard of. But it was such a compelling conversation though, because it was just a talk of like, well, what do you like about wrestling? How'd you get into this? Like, what made you want to do this? What inspired you? How does your family react to it? If you have a day job, which you probably do, if you're just starting out, what do your coworkers think of it? And it was just so unconventional, but it was so much more fascinating than just interviewing a big star, which is the typical, well, did you like your match at WrestleMania? Like to me, it's
Mm-hmm.
like on a personality level, it's almost more interesting to talk to people that are kind of just starting out
Mm-hmm.
because that's when they kind of have like wild stories about how they got started, and it's really cool. So that's kind of what it reminds me of when I see you interview these guys and gals.
Yeah. The one of the questions which I ask is, and it's one which sticks out for me, is I said to the people, obviously, who they're not familiar with, I said, why should people go and check you out? And it's not a question like to trick them and stuff like that. it's basically a way them saying, look, this is why I think you should go check me out. And I think, to be what I do understand, a lot of people has gone and check these guys out, but it's a way of them like promoting themselves a little bit without, not on the spot. It's just, there you go. Do you know what I mean? You go check this out. I mean, the best one I always like is Arthur Scarrow. I said to him, I said, why should people go check you out? And the first thing he said to me was, who doesn't love a pirate?
Hey, he's got a point, man. You know, Pirates of the Caribbean was like a big film series. Who doesn't love a pirate, man? Unless you're on the receiving end of the pirate. You know, if they're like you know, docking your boat and then trying to rob you. You know, you might not like a pirate then, but otherwise, I mean, everybody loves a good pirate, man.
There you go. But yeah, as always, they're always on the archive, so you want to go and check these guys back out. Let's check up on the comments before we're here.
We got Shane in the house.
Oh shit! Sorry, there you go.
We double clicked there, buddy. What's going on, man? Rennie's in the house. Said she's battling a sore throat. I'm sorry to hear that. That really sucks. Shane's asking her a question. Rennie, which theme is better, AJ current or his old WWE theme? His old one, by far. Like, it's not even close. His new theme sucks. Like, I hate that they changed it.
I'm going to be honest. I prefer his TNA theme to every single theme he's got.
He had a badass TNA theme. Yeah.
Get Ready to Fly.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I hate. What do you think of his new theme? Like the one he just started using a couple months ago. I hate it.
It sucks. I mean, it absolutely sucks. I mean, I always prefer his first WWE one because it kind of ties into obviously his first story, which we'll be covering shortly. But yeah, I mean, when I'm not against like changing themes and stuff, but when they change them, you think, what the hell is this? You're like, nah.
It aggravates me when somebody has a really dope theme and they change it. Now, I think WWE was trying to get rid of all the old CFO themes. Yeah. The theme that duo, the CFOs, made. All those like mid-2010s themes, which were mostly bangers, let's be honest. You know, like Bailey's old theme and, you know, all that. Like, they made all those, and they were damn good themes. And I think when they broke the relationship with them, they don't want to pay them money to use it anymore. I don't know what the deal is, but it seems like they tried to phase all those songs out. And they're trying to get rid of all of them. And that was one of them, this AJ Styles theme.
Yeah, and like I said, we're covering obviously AJ Styles today, so we've had a little introduction and stuff. Shall we get straight into the main events time?
Yeah.
Here we go.
The main event.
Get that quarter ready, kid.
I've got it outside now. I make sure I don't forget it before I come live.
Hell yeah. Literally have a quarter as a prop alongside the program. That's dedication you get from the magician here.
It's one where my friend actually 3D printed and it says one fuck on it.
Is that the only fuck you have left to give? Is that what you're
there
trying
you go. That's the joke. I don't know if you can see that.
I can, yeah. It is a fuck coin. Like legit. That's pretty cool, man. I like that.
My mate at work obviously printed it on his 3D printer, and I've just kept it ever since, so I kind of use it for the show. It's brilliant. So we're covering obviously AJ Styles and stuff like that. So it feels like a while since we've done a highs and lows series, weirdly.
It has been a while. What was the last one we did? I don't even remember offhand.
I don't know myself. I'll have to go back and look at the archives.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done a high and low. Was it wasn't the Cody one, was it? Was that the last one we did?
I'm not too sure.
That was like a couple months back. It's been a while. Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
I've got a couple of questions to start with anyway, so we can have a look back. So, I mean, the reason we obviously want to talk about AJ Styles, we want to talk about a modern character, a guy who's been around. We've obviously discussed that earlier on, but I mean, how do you summarize AJ Styles as a performer overall?
I think so. Let's break it down like this. I think of the modern wrestler as two main templates, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, there's others too, you know, like hardcore is a different thing and, you know, whatever. But when I think about the templates of modern day wrestlers, I think of two people. Bret the Hitman Hart, and Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
I think of like Bryan Danielson, for example. I think of in the Bret Hart template. AJ Styles, I think of as the Shawn Michaels template. If Bryan Danielson's the closest thing today we have of Bret Hart, I think AJ Styles is the closest thing we've had the past 20 years to Shawn Michaels, outside of Shawn Michaels himself, obviously. So yeah, I think he's kind of that prototypical Shawn Michaels style wrestler. He's got the high flying spots, very acrobatic, but you know, he could reel it in, and he's got some technical acumen too. Sells really well. You know, definitely not as charismatic as Shawn. You know, Styles is not like a great promo guy, but in the ring, I think he's very comparable to prime Shawn Michaels.
I think, yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Edge was obviously in TNA. I didn't obviously understand wrestling as much as I do then. So when he was getting towards the point where he was leaving TNA, I started to understand wrestling a little bit more. So I knew that there was more outside. TNA is obviously New Japan, obviously WWE and stuff. So then that's where you start to learn about his career path and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the guy's got charisma. I love his in-ring style. And like I said, there's so many great moments. And just to clarify, the last highs and lows we did was mystery highs and lows, which was WrestleMania main events.
Ah, the mystery. I forgot about the mystery episode. Yes. Yes.
So that was obviously the last one we did. So for people obviously who's not familiar with this series, what we do is we take 10 talking points, 5 which Mr. Isaacs have chosen, 5 which I've chosen. We discuss them, and we have to discuss whether it's a high or a low. So Mr. Isaacs, you're going to be kicking us off.
All right. And these are in no particular order, by the way. We just kind of randomize them. It's not like one's the best or whatever. But you know, one of the ones that popped up in my head, probably the very first one, honestly, was his WWE debut at the Royal Rumble in 2016, I think, right? So when it was. This was amazing because it was unexpected. People were talking about, you know, where's AJ Styles going to go? Where's he going to end up? Is he going to go to WWE? Or, you know, what's he going to do? Is he going to go back to Impact? What's he going to do? And nobody really thought he was going to appear here. And I just remember Roman Reigns being in the ring. He just cleared everybody out of the ring.
Yep.
And the countdown's going on. Everybody's like, oh, okay, who's going to come out and get killed by Reigns now? And this music starts, this dope ass rap song starts, and AJ Styles' name flashes up on the screen, and the crowd popped the roof off the damn place. I mean, it was huge. And I mean, that was just so iconic. That was one of my favorite debuts, probably my favorite modern debut I can think of the past couple decades. That was a great, great debut. And, you know, Styles obviously performed really well. He was super popular. And I know that from interviews since then, he said that he honestly thought nobody was going to know who he was. Like he thought he was going to come out to like a dead reaction. And much to his surprise, he came out to a monstrous pop. And I think for me, I don't see how you could classify this as anything but a high for his career.
No, absolutely. I think the one thing you mentioned there with Roman Reigns is his facial reactions is kind of like my reaction because we're going, who's this? Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. We're like, okay, this guy. Because like you mentioned there, the music, none of us knew what the music was. And then when you saw the name, you're like, holy shit, he's here. Because you mentioned there, nobody knew where it was going to go. I didn't know where it was going to go. I thought we might come back to TNA. But, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's got to be high no matter what, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't see how anybody could like twist this to be a low. Like you'd have to be. I mean, I guess if you were just a boo boo faced you know, WWE hater, was just like, oh, like WWE, you should have stayed in Japan. You know, maybe you could think it's a low there. Like, but no, I mean, this was about as high as you could possibly get for him, honestly.
Yeah, and it's definitely a memorable, debut. So I think we're both been agreeing. It's definitely a high. Rennie says AJ's dad was loud as fuck. It rivals Edge's return. I think that's a fair comment, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's obviously one in yours. So next up we've got, and it's actually the most recent one on the list, and this got a lot of people talking, and it's I want to say fake retirement type thing, because I'll tell you the story. I know it. It said that AJ Styles retired, and I'm like, holy shit, I've got to check this video out. So I'm watching the video going, oh, he's retired. Do you know what I mean? He's done great stuff in the rings. And then the turn where he attacks Cody, and I'm like, I've just got fucking duped here. What's going on? But the thing is, I mean, this has obviously got a lot of resemblances, obviously, to Mark Henry's type thing. But, and what do you think, to be honest with this?
This was a cool moment. I kind of suspected this was going to happen for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, he wore the powder blue suit jacket, which kind of sort of seems like the contrast to the salmon colored suit jacket that Mark Henry wore in his infamous moment with Cena with his fake retirement. So that kind of clued me off too, because those colors kind of match with each other. It's clear they were trying to replicate that moment. It's very, very clear, even with just that choice of jacket. And then when he called Cody out and said he had something he wanted to say to him, I was like, okay, he's going to attack Cody. So the suit jacket was number one. And then when he called out Cody, I was like, all right, he's not actually retiring. He's going to beat down Cody.
But it definitely got a lot of people talking. That's the point obviously I'm making. Obviously, it got a lot of resemblances, to like I said, Mark Henry and stuff. Haney's in the comments. Can you show his comment?
I didn't go insane. I dipped my Dorito in the salsa sauce and thought, spicy. Now, can you tell me what the hell he's talking about here?
I didn't go insane. It's Doritos, the type of crisp, or you might call it a chip.
Yeah, right.
And then the salsa is basically a sauce. Do you like we dip it in?
So, right. I know what a Dorito and salsa is, but I just didn't understand the context of.
I just think it's Haney being random like he does.
That's funny.
But
Haney, I'm glad to see you, brother.
Of course, Haney. It's been, I feel like ages since we've seen you, bro. But the thing is with this, can we class it as a high or low based on the impact it's done? I mean, I know it's more recent.
I'm kind of mid on this one. I mean, I don't think it's a low by any means.
Mm-hmm.
I guess kind of what I need to see is I need to see more of the fallout of it, because this was literally just a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had one episode of SmackDown last night since then, and it did seem to kind of elevate the feud between the two. They were in my backyard here in Kentucky and Louisville, and it seems like it's going to kind of be the catalyst for a bigger, more kind of blood feud style feud between Styles and Cody. It'll probably be a high. I mean, I certainly don't think it's a low by any means, but I think the jury's still out on that one. We need to see where this feud goes. I don't think this was anywhere near as impactful as Mark Henry, though. I will say that.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a neutral.
Randy says neutral. Yeah.
Why was AJ eliminated from the 22 so early? Oh, I think that was against Wendell Luke Harper as well, if I remember, eliminated him, something along them lines, if I remember rightly.
In 2020? I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch it and see. I really don't remember.
Yeah, the good thing about this obviously show is we're always going to get things which are neutral and stuff like that, but I guess this is one of those which it could be a high next time we cover it again, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
right.
It's kind of yet to be determined, man. Like, we just kind of got to see where it's going to go from here.
Absolutely. So, back to you, number 3.
Number 3. Now, this one, this was interesting, and I know this was kind of during a time where you were watching TNA, so I'm kind of curious to see what you think about this. We are going to talk about when he had Ric Flair as his mentor, and this was kind of leading into the creation of the stable known as Fortune, which was basically like dollar store Four Horsemen. I'll give you my thoughts on this. I thought this was ridiculous. I don't mind the idea of Flair being his mentor, but he started acting like Flair. Like, he started wearing the suit and he started wooing in promos, and it's like I just was not feeling AJ Styles getting away from being himself as just a badass wrestler. And, well, I'm mimicking Ric Flair now. Like, that's my gimmick. You know, he can't just be a good wrestler anymore. He's got to be a Ric Flair wannabe. I didn't like it. I thought it sucked. I don't think it fit AJ. And I'm going to say this was a low. I didn't like it.
I'm going to be honest. There were some parts of this which I thought was entertaining. Yeah, the promo things like mimicking Flair was really annoying. But I feel like the fortune thing, there was something there. But then they're closing the name 4 people, but yet they added one more person. So then it was like, you called Fortune, but you've got 5 people in your group. Do you know what I mean? It kind of got a little bit confusing along those lines. But I'm going to have to say it's a high because there was obviously entertaining moments for me, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, I think this is one of those things where it's like Marmite. Some people liked it, some people don't. But for me, I actually liked it.
Okay. I mean, there was definitely some entertaining moments about it for sure. I just think in the grand scheme of things, this isn't really one of those things I'm really going to remember much from from AJ's career when it's all said and done. But yeah, you know, I could see how it was entertaining. Obviously, you put a suit on somebody and have them woo, it's going to be entertaining no matter who it is.
Yeah, so obviously one for high, one for low. This it's very rare we actually disagree on things, but this is one where I've gone high, you've gone low.
I was kind of wondering about this one, honestly, because when I picked this one, I'm like, now Liam really loves this era of TNA, so I kind of thought there was a possibility you might disagree with me on it, which is cool. That's great. It makes for good discussion.
Of course. Now, this next one, this might be a big discussion. Now, one of the biggest things which people say was TNA's downfall was, of course, allowing AJ to leave. Now, since obviously he's left, there's been a lot of reports about it was offered like less money, schedule, yada yada. There's so many different stories about it, but I mean, do you think this was obviously a big part of TNA's downfall?
Yeah, I do. Because AJ is just one of those guys that kind of like created the identity of TNA. Like, if you think about those guys that really kind of created the identity, you think of Samoa Joe, you think of Christopher Daniels, you think of Jeff Jarrett, and you got to think of AJ Styles. I mean, those are kind of the guys, kind of what the company was built on in those early years. And especially in the ring, like the captivation of like the X division and that style of wrestling, AJ Styles was the forefront of that. Like, he was one of the innovators of that style that became so popular that we still see today in wrestling. You know, I would argue not quite as good as Prime X Division, but that's a conversation for another day. So yeah, to me, AJ Styles was really engrossed in the identity of TNA. And I think this was a big blunder on TNA to lose AJ. I really do. You know, obviously from the perspective of AJ Styles, I could kind of see this either way. I could see this as a high because he went out into the independent scene, reinvented himself, built himself up. But at the same time, going from TNA to PWG was kind of a bit of a drop off. So I guess it kind of depends. Are we including what he built up to in determining if it's a high or low? Or are we going for what was the immediate effect of him leaving TNA? I guess that's kind of the question that I would have here. What would you say, Liam?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I think as a whole, I mean, yeah, obviously we know. Let's talk about what it meant for AJ's career leaving TNA. Do you know what I mean? Because that's obviously the reason why we're talking about him. What impact did that have obviously on his career? Do you know, leaving?
Yeah, I think we have to look at that too. I think we have to look at the overall effect. And I'm going to say the overall effect on AJ was a high because I think he went up substantially after he left TNA, which we'll talk about. You know, he went out to the Indies, went to Ring of Honor, New Japan. You know, we're going to, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about more of that stuff in later points. But I think it ended up being a strong net positive for AJ. So I'm going to say him leaving TNA was a high.
He went for, but yeah, Bullet Club's obviously on this list, and he says it's a low and a travesty.
I heard another podcaster that I've listened to for years talk about how he's got the like the soccer mom haircut. Like he does. It like AJ Styles kind of exemplifies like the soccer mom hairdo. Like I don't think it's quite Karen level, but it's just like a nice soccer mom, you know, that wears the dress with the flowers on it and brings cookies for all the kids. That's AJ Styles. That's what he looks like.
Yes. Thing is, now looking at obviously what we've talked about there, I think if we're talking about the impact of AJ as a whole, I mean, he went on obviously to Ring of Honor, New Japan, which we'll obviously talk about later on, other indie stuff. But the big part is it's got to be like a high for him because look where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he went way, 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 way up after leaving TNA, and he left TNA on a pretty bad rut. Let's be honest, which we'll get into that too.
Yeah, there's quite a lot on this, but yeah, I mean, so that's two highs. Mr. Isaacs, back to you.
All right, let me get the things pulled up here. All right, now this one, I don't think there's going to be a ton of debate here. Let's just be honest, but we got to talk about the world title reign of AJ Styles. I mean, kind of piggybacking off what we were talking about before. If he had never left TNA, he would not have been WWE champion and main eventing WrestleMania. Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to call this a high. You know, if you look back at his record, you know, he won the WWE championship, and I think he won it from Jinder Mahal, and then went on to defend against Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar literally didn't want to wrestle Jinder Mahal. Forced them to make him drop the title to AJ Styles the week of, I think it was Survivor Series, if I remember correctly. So AJ Styles was a very highly respected in-ring competitor if they're making that kind of switch at the last minute like that. But yeah, AJ was a great champion. You know, he had a big feud with John Cena, feud with Shinsuke Nakamura, which, you know, he also had in New Japan. This was a great, great time. Quite possibly the best stretch of AJ Styles' career, let's be honest. It's high. I don't see how you could call winning the WWE championship and holding it for a while being a low of any kind. But what say you, Liam?
I'm going to say it's high. Yeah, I have to agree. But the problem I've got is I don't remember much about his title reign. Yeah, obviously the Shinsuke one was terrible. That, be honest, that feud was absolutely shocking. Obviously, bet Brock. I mean, the guys bet Brock. Enough said about that. But other than that, and obviously a couple of other matches, I don't remember much about his title reign. But other than obviously winning the title, it's going to be high.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a damn good match with Lesnar too. If you go back and watch that, like he worked the perfect like small athletic high flyer versus Brock style match. Like he did a brilliant job of it. I thought that his match with Lesnar was absolutely fantastic. I think it was an underrated classic if you go back and watch it now.
Yep, so that's another one obviously for high. Now this next one, is it safe to say this next one's like pandemic era type match?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's, of course, the guy came back for one match, and a lot of people don't like this match. A lot of people do. I've got mixed feelings about it, and it's, of course, it's The Undertaker. And I don't know why I picked that image, but I did.
Well, that image is everywhere. And I think we talked about this when we did our Undertaker highs and lows episode as well. That image is like all over meme groups, like all over Facebook, because people are taking that image and making it like, oh, you're in this situation, and then this thing sneaks up on you, and it's this meme, you know, that they're putting text to for providing context of this. So this is a meme, man. Like this image is everywhere, all over the internet.
Dear. But yeah, the thing is with this match is WWE obviously they made the best out of the situation. The world was obviously shutting down. There was a lot of obviously COVID and stuff like that about it, but some of this match was really entertaining, but then some of this match is like, what the flipping hell am I watching here? I mean, what did you think of this?
I call me crazy, but I like these cinematic style matches. I think they're entertaining. I enjoyed this. I mean, I didn't love it to the. I'm not gonna like go back on this and think this is the greatest match in the history of AJ Styles' career or anything, because it's not even really a match. It's just kind of like a cinematic fight, like from an action movie. But I liked it. And I think that during the pandemic era, this is kind of It's the best they could do, honestly. I mean, obviously, it would have been better if they had had a proper in-ring match with a crowd, but I mean, it was what it was, and I just don't think that if you're in the main event slot of WrestleMania, I have
Mhm.
a very hard time considering that a low.
Yep.
And for that alone, I think I have to call this a high. It's not the highest of high, but I think it's a high. You're main eventing Mania. That's a high, period.
Yeah, and like I mentioned there, I mean, you're making the best out of a bad situation. I think you've hit the nail on the head just there. Your main event in WrestleMania, it's against one of the absolute legends in The Undertaker. Whether people like it or not, there was some good parts, there's some good bad parts. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's got to be a high as well.
And we are in agreement.
There you
I
go.
like
There you
it.
go.
I like it.
Right then, so we've got four more to discuss. Next up, back to you, number 7.
Number 7. Oh, yes. Now we're kind of getting to a little bit of what he did after leaving TNA. And we're going to talk a little bit about AJ Styles being the IWGP champion. Now, I was doing a little bit of research this morning, a little show prep. I pulled up New Japan World, which I don't watch very much right now because New Japan's kind of in a rut. But I went back and watched Wrestle Kingdom 10, which was his match with Nakamura. He wasn't the champion then, but I also went back a little earlier than that to Wrestling Dontaku, I think is what it's called.
Yep.
And that's where AJ Styles made his in-ring debut for New Japan and beat Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. You want to talk about reinventing yourself? Being kind of irrelevant, being kind of like in a rut and creatively kind of flushed down the drain like he was at the end of his TNA tenure, to building yourself back up and winning arguably the second most prestigious world championship in wrestling history. That's pretty huge.
Oh, yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, that's very, very huge. And he's one of only, I think, 3 Americans. Yeah, he's one of only 3 Americans to ever hold that title. The other 2 being Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar.
Oh, okay.
The 3 of them they're the only Americans to ever hold that title. Now, technically, the first IWGP champion was Hulk Hogan, but that's when it was just a tournament championship. When it became a regular title, a regular
Yep.
championship, the first one was Antonio Inoki. But there were only 3 Americans to ever hold that, and AJ Styles was one of them, along with Brock and Kurt. So I think that's damn good company of people holding the IWGP championship. But yeah, this was obviously a very, very big high. I mean, AJ reinvented himself. TNA was probably kicking themselves in the ass when they saw that he became the IWGP champion. What do you think?
So I'm gonna have to be honest here and stuff like that. I mean, I've not seen any AJ Styles match from New Japan, but I have watched a lot of the recount stuff. Do you know what Kevin Kelly, voiced over and stuff?
Yeah.
And from what I've seen is, I mean, that guy's voiceover work is really terrific. Anyway, that was huge. I mean, you've got one of the biggest guys, obviously leaving TNA. Nobody knew what he was going to do, and just show up obviously in New Japan with some big stars. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, which I know we're going to talk about this, but he became the face of the Bullet Club, which was enormous. And this was peak Bullet Club during this time too. So I mean, this was huge, and I mean, this really, really raised AJ Styles' stock a lot in the pro wrestling world. He wouldn't be where he was. He wouldn't be where he is today if he hadn't taken this step in New Japan and become super popular on an international stage. And some of the matches he had in New Japan that I've seen were fantastic. I mean, the match with Okada was really good. At Wrestle Kingdom 10, he wasn't the IWGP champion, but he was going for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, which they eventually merged with their heavyweight championship a couple years back and got that god awful Divas title looking belt that they have now. It's a piece of shit. But he had a great match with Shinsuke Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom 10. It was amazing. So if you haven't seen that, I'd highly recommend you go check it out.
I definitely will. For some reason, number 9 on our list, I kind of want to get Haney's thoughts, but I don't know if he's in the comments.
Okay. let's,
Haney,
let's throw it out there.
if you're in the comments, you want to come on the show because number 9, I really want to get your opinion on it. We're obviously on number 8 anyway, but here's the reason why. Now, this next one, I don't even. This was really comical because I remember seeing the match when he had this, but I didn't realize the aftermath about this, and it's of course, I want to say top rope drama. Let's be honest. I mean, this was entertaining. Let's be honest. But apparently, it was on the live shows as well, which I didn't know.
Yeah, I will be totally honest with you. I don't even remember this. So can you kind of like recap and give some context here? I mean, I remember his feud with Dean Ambrose there. That's who he won the I think he won the title from Ambrose once during his title reigns, but give a little context here to what this was.
So he got caught on the top rope, and the rumor has it that he stayed on that top rope for the rest of the show, even after match after match.
Now, this was at a live event, right? Like a house show.
I believe so. There's footage of it. Obviously, we can't show it for obviously copyright reasons and stuff like that. But if I do find it, I'll send it you. But it's just so comical that he's there like in pain, and Ambrose is like, "Come on, pal, you've got this."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's kind of, it's inconsequential to his wrestling career as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's necessarily a low, but I guess I'm going to call it a low just for the sense of that it had absolutely nothing to do with his overall success as a wrestler. But it's funny, though, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, can we say it's a high or a low? Really?
Not really. I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know. It's just one of those things that you kind of point and laugh and say "ha ha" at, but it's not really not really anything that hurt him, but not really anything that helped him either.
No, not at all. So Haney's actually backstage, so he's going to help us with number 9 and 10, and then we've got more time. Haney can throw some at us. What's
cool.
going on, Haney?
All right, I was just going to say. I mean, in Keyfab terms, he said worse because he had. Let's forget he had his balls in Dixie Carter. So,
well,
we're getting there, my friend. We're getting there.
Oh, is that a spoiler?
Yeah,
Mr. Isaacs, take it away for number 9.
All right, so piggybacking off of what Haney eloquently came on here and just said is we've got the a very odd Jerry Springer, Vince Russo-esque storyline involving AJ Styles and some rumors about Dixie Carter. That's the Claire Lynch story. Now, to kind of set the context here of what this was, he was feuding with Christopher Daniels. And Daniels was playing the heel, and he was throwing out all these insinuations that, AJ was having an affair with Dixie Carter. And this included him playing a recording of a private phone conversation between them that seemed kind of salacious. And what it came out is that AJ Styles was actually helping this poor pregnant addict by the name of Claire Lynch. And he was urging Dixie Carter to step in and try to help this young lady and try to correct her life. This was so beyond left field weird for pro wrestling, which of course ended up being a total farce. Christopher Daniels actually was colluding, and this girl actually wasn't even pregnant, but he tried to say that AJ was the father of this kid, and this whole thing just kind of just went to this weird Vince Russo, Jerry Springer territory. Absolutely god awful storyline. Funny little, well, not really funny, but apparently this poor girl that played Claire Lynch was just an actress. They didn't know anything about wrestling. They just hired her from acting.
Oh,
and she did not realize, because she's a normie, right? So she didn't realize wrestling fans are fucking insane. So like wrestling fans were like going at her on social media, and she was like, what the hell's wrong with these people? I'm playing a role on television. What's wrong with you idiots? But apparently she got some hardcore harassment on social media for this.
Yeah,
but this was god awful. This was a low. Liam,
I think some of that comes from the fact that he's a big family man. And he always speaks about the most important. Well, I suppose for everybody, but he always at any opportunity. He talks about his wife and his kids, you know. So
Yeah.
it was storylines like this are just, it's just Jerry Springer stuff. It was a bit weird seeing that Jerry Springer had that whole generation has sort of gone, and then all of a sudden TNA are doing an angle like this. It was just not my cup of tea at all.
Yeah, this was Vince Russo 1998.
Yeah,
I think this was like low to mid card Monday Night Raw, Vince Russo Crash TV segment. That's what this was.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Yeah.
It was a definite low.
Yeah, the thing is with this, and why obviously I'm glad you picked this actual storyline, was this is when I start to understand wrestling a little bit more, like how things work behind the scenes. And at the start, I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. But then when Claire Lynch, I mean, no disrespect to her, I'm sure she's a lovely person anyway, the story got confusing and I'm scratching my head going, right, so you did this, but this, but this, but this. I'm like, it's like fucking Jeremy Kyle.
Now, Liam, when you were a young ginger boy in the UK, did this storyline teach you about the birds and bees?
No, it made it worse.
all I remember about it was a sign and that had basically implying that the poor girl had a face like a foot, you know.
Jesus.
But I think that's where some of the toxicity of the wrestling fans come in from as well, you know.
This poor girl had no idea what she was getting into.
No,
she's like, I'm playing a role on television. What the hell's wrong with you people? Leave me alone.
Yeah. You know, that was just to be clear. I don't think she's got a face like a foot. I think that's not very nice.
I think she's a pretty lady. Yeah.
You know, but you know what wrestling fans can be like. I mean, it wasn't as grotesque. I mean, the conversation, the phone call wasn't as grotesque as it was Paul Bearer telling Jerry Lawler at the break. Well, he was talking that how he gave Undertaker's and Kane's one, mum and one in the kitchen on the kitchen floor. That was like surely Russo didn't look at that and go, we could do that again.
What was the thing that Jerry Lawler asked him during that? It was fucking hilarious, but I can't remember exactly what he asked.
Yeah, and it was pretty grotesque. It was pretty much, I did on the floor in the kitchen.
I remember that. That was absolutely hilarious, though. It was inappropriate and stupid, but it was hilarious.
Oh, jeez. You know.
Right, then, so the point is this a low or is this a high? I mean, it's got to be a low, right, for me anyway.
Well, this is definitely a low because this is one of the very last things AJ did in TNA after such an amazing run as like X Division and
this was the tail end, yeah.
This is what this is if you were to go and like remember what he was, what was it? This could take his legacy in TNA because this is the last bit that was there and it was just totally not in character of AJ Styles, and wasn't really. I mean, this has been what was it? TNA were trying to sort of grab at everything. You know, to try and call back what they had messed up, you know. So,
is this when they were changing the television stations as well?
Yeah, this was around. I think was it not 2013, 2014?
Yes, this was 2014, I believe.
Yeah, and what was it? They lost their big deal, and everything just went belly up from that point. You know, then you had the Jarrett stuff. Jarrett was out, and then he was in, and he was out, and then he was in again. And then
it was Global Force Wrestling for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and he was shelling bars of gold, black gold to everybody. Buy my gold.
Jarrett was scamming people, selling people gold bars. And the show turned like green and black for like 3 weeks. It was called Global Force, and then all of a sudden Jarrett disappeared.
And then obviously Billy Corgan, what was it? Bought what was it? TNA. Well, we thought he bought TNA, and then it turned out he hadn't bought TNA.
Billy Corgan entered some kind of agreement with Dixie Carter where he believed he bought TNA from Dixie, but in reality, some legality, like he just invested, but he didn't buy it.
Yeah.
And like he was the head of creative for a little while. I still don't fully understand what happened there, but apparently Billy Corgan thought he owned Impact for a
Yep.
period of time. And then Dixie's like, no, you don't own it. And here's proof. And then that was the end of it. Then he disappeared for a couple of years and started NWA back. So yeah.
Dear. Right, then we've got one more obviously to talk about, and it's one which a lot of people like, a lot of people don't as well. It's of course the leader of the Bullet Club. Now, the weird thing is, in preparation for this actual show, is Mr. Isaacs. AJ said one, it was never the leader of the Bullet Club, and two, apparently it was unofficial anyway.
Well, he was kind of you could look at him as the de facto leader of Bullet Club. I mean, officially, I think Carl Anderson was the leader of the Bullet Club during that time. But when AJ became a member of it, he kind of became the de facto leader. I don't think they actually said it, but he was the main event guy. So he was the guy carrying the banner for him up until they turned on him and Kenny Omega became the head of the Bullet Club and he left New Japan. But yeah, this obviously ties into, what I talked about, him being the IWGP champion. He was great as the head of the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club, obviously, this was kind of at their peak, when they were super popular. The Young Bucks were there, Anderson and Gallows, and the Gorillas of Destiny. All those guys were there in one big unified team, just kicking everyone's ass. If you go back and watch some of those New Japan shows from around that time, crowds at New Japan are usually pretty quiet. The crowd fucking hated Bullet Club. I mean, you heard sneers and boos and jeers like crazy when Bullet Club was on the screen. I mean, major heel heat. I think AJ did a phenomenal job here as the top heel, kind of the de facto leader of the Bullet Club. And again, this is part of his transformation, and I think this is a definite high for him.
Absolutely. Any Bullet Club leader, go ahead.
Sorry, I got cut off there. I was never a big fan of the whole Bullet Club stuff, to be honest. What was it? For obvious reasons, I will not go into. I know the version.
It's because they rip off the NWO mannerisms, right, Haney?
They pretty much ripped off DX.
It's not because of any members that were in it.
No, nothing to do with the dumb bucks. Was it called? Yeah, I mean, for AJ, it was a great thing. You can't really argue what it did for him. And that run. What was it? And to be fair, the transitions in between the three leaders was done really well. From sort of Finn and that to AJ to Omega, that was done really well. That was when it wasn't like burnt out, and what was it shoved in your face?
Yeah.
That was that. Yeah, that was that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, personally, but was it? I was never a big thing with it. I don't. But what was it? I know it was very popular and it did well for him, and I know a lot of people got a lot of enjoyment out of it. So really good for AJ.
And it was also big for New Japan as well, because like I said, you've got a team there which a lot of people hate, but it drew people in. It got people talking, Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Bullet Club T-shirt and how that sold so well during this time period. I mean, it was like the only non-WWE T-shirt that like significantly sold anywhere.
Yeah,
which I mean, that was pretty big for the time. I mean, it's a lot more common now, but it was big at the time.
Absolutely. So, Haney,
I remember. What was it? Just before I go, I remember on Connor's podcast talking about the Bullet Club T-shirt, and what was it? And he was saying that what was it? What was it? It was very popular with the gun touting, but was it Americans as well? Because
yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people that were probably buying the shirt that didn't even know it had anything to do with wrestling. They just thought it looked cool. It was a skull and crossbones with like bullet on it. It's like, hey, I'm an American. I like to shoot guns. I like this. I agree.
Awesome. So, anyway, we've got a little bit of time. Do you want to throw one high or low to talk about? Anything?
Oh, geez, let me think. So, I mean, But was I'm trying to remember. There was what was a sort of time where he had a bit of an unfortunate sort of run where it was, I think there was 3 wrestlers in total got injured from the AJ the Styles Clash. I obviously know about Lionheart. I'm trying to remember the other 2. But obviously that was they were really like in quick succession. And I remember sort of the internet like, oh, this move needs to be banned, you know.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, well, AJ, it's not AJ, it's the other person. You know, people forget that sometimes wrestling moves aren't the people that are executing it. It could be the other person, or it could be a combination of both, like the Canadian Destroyer, which is just basically a somersault you used to do in the, you know, in cheerleading class for what was it for the Americans, you know. Oh, the
Yeah, I
Canadians.
remember that. I'm trying to remember who else was hurt really bad by that. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, somebody else was hurt really bad by that because they took it the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look it up. 2 seconds. I'm trying to remember. I wasn't expecting.
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, I actually like the Styles Clash anyway, but it is one of those moves where if it's done wrong, it can look really, really bad, but it's unique in a way, let's be honest.
Yeah. While Haney's looking that up, just for context here, I remember him talking about the Styles Clash and how people thought it was dangerous and all that. And I'm trying to, the guy's name is slipping my mind, but who was that dude that had the no chin that they made a joke of? What was his name again?
It was Ainsworth.
James Ellsworth. Yeah. So like he told a story about how he was going to do the Styles Clash to James Ellsworth, and Ellsworth tucked his chin, and AJ's like, "No, don't do that. Don't tuck your chin. Just look up. If you tuck your chin, you're going to jam your neck. If you just like all you have to do is just look up when I give this move to you." He's like, "This is the safest move in the world. All you have to do is just look up. Don't tuck." So I guess some people were tucking their chin when they took it, and it was jamming their neck when he was pressing their face down in the mat. And he said, you know, if you just, you know, chin up, that's all you got to do. And I noticed when I watched his matches this morning, I watched his match with Okada. Okada had the chin up, and it just looked like he just perfectly landed on his stomach. You know, I think guys were taking it wrong.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, wrestlers do that. I mean, I know Seth had a period of time where the buckle bomb was like sort of like ban the buckle bomb, you know. But was it? It's going to annoy me now who he injured. I know about. I'm trying to look.
He did hurt somebody pretty bad with that. I don't remember who it was now, but yeah,
he did.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's your homework for next week, ain't it?
Oh, I love homework. You know, you've got to sort of, you've got to love homework.
What we require is a 5-page report, double spaced with 12-point Times New Roman font, and explain to us in detail who was hurt by the Styles Clash. Can you do that for us?
Thanks for kidding.
And graphic sort of Mortal Kombat sort of spine chilling sort of what was it graphics as well.
Right, like the parts in the newer Mortal Kombat games where they show the little sequence where you're like striking them and you can see their bones crunching inside. Like you need to provide an animation like that from the Styles Clash.
Awesome.
Does anybody do somebody else does a variation of the Style Clash, don't they?
Oh.
Wasn't it a female? I remember. Was it McCool?
I'm bad about remembering like who does what move sometimes.
I think Michelle McCool. I'm sure it is.
I'll have to check and see. I can't remember honestly. Michelle McCool is what Shane says in the chat.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
So what was it? What was it? The first one was Yoshi, so that was what was it? Becky broke his neck in the New Japan.
Oh yes.
Out for quite a while, that's out for quite a while.
Yoshi, he used to wrestle in WWE, and then AJ broke the poor guy's neck in Japan with that. Yeah, I remember that.
But was it
Yoshitatsu? Was that his name?
Yoshi Tatsu. Yep. He injured. What was it? Roddy Strong as well. On. And what was it? Lionheart, and there was a few others. I'm looking through this just now, but Yeah, I think that's the one we're both thinking of, the sort of the Yoshi one in New Japan, because obviously that was pretty severe. He was out for over a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Yoshitatsu was the guy I was trying to think of that I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. But yeah, he hurt Yoshitatsu really bad. But I remember Yoshi from he wrestled in the old like ECW reboot in WWE.
Yeah, I remember.
He was in WWE for several years and then went back to Japan, and that happened to him.
Let's not forget that AJ is actually actually one of the only wrestlers still wrestling that was in WCW.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he was Air Styles with Air Paris as a tag team at the very tail end of WCW. Yeah.
I don't think there's too many left, is there? But was it wrestling now?
Rey Mysterio. If you look at Japan, Yuji Nagata, I think still wrestles. He was a WCW wrestler for a while. I don't know about some of the Lucha guys like Psychosis or Juventud Guerrera. I don't know if they still wrestle or not.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
There's a small handful of them still out there.
Yeah.
So to end obviously the show, and like we always do, one final question before we head off, Mr. Isaacs, how would you sum up like the legacy of AJ Styles from like what he's done to what he's basically got left to do?
You know, it's like I said, I don't think he's as good, but I think he's the closest thing that modern wrestling has to like this generation's prototypical Shawn Michaels kind of wrestler. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got the high flying, he can do the technical acumen, he sells really well. He always performs well in these big matches. You can always rely on AJ Styles to be the showstopper, pun intended. He's that guy. You know, he's that Shawn Michaels kind of figure in the ring. He doesn't have the charisma of Shawn on the mic. But as far as wrestling ability goes, I think that's what his legacy is going to be. I think he's going to be like the modern day prototypical Shawn Michaels, the same way I think that Bryan Danielson is going to be the modern day prototypical Bret Hart. I think that's how they're going to be viewed.
I think that's fair. Haney?
Yeah, I think you can't really argue with that. Hopefully he doesn't. This is a strange one, and I feel this with all wrestlers. And I think, what was it? Jericho's already past that mark, and Danielson's sort of getting there with it. And I hope AJ, what was it? Stops before he can't do what we're known for. You know.
Yeah.
But was it because that's what you get remembered for? What you were at the end. Sadly, but was your accomplishments? But was are remembered by your fondest fans. But really, when people look back, was into the archives, they tend to sort of look at the sort of end of what their career was, and it takes a bit of a time to get the Renaissance background to sort of be popularized as well. You know, as I've said it, but was I mean. One of the pivotal ones for that just now is probably Hogan. You know, he's in that, but was it not very well liked thing just now, and but was it spoken not very well of? You know, what was it because he stuck around for far too long? You know,
yeah.
And I think Jericho's at risk of doing that at the moment, and I hope AJ, but when he's talking about retirement, I mean it's sad to see a great performer disappear and go, but. Go on top. Don't. What was it? Drag it out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
This has been an absolutely really fun show. I love doing these highs and lows. People obviously watch these. You know what I mean? If you've got any suggestions like highs and lows you want us to do, send them to us. You know what I mean? We'll obviously put the shows together. They're really, really fun. And the best part about it is it's not us being critical. It's just us like, on-ring, you know, like the careers, or even shows, wrestling belt. There's so many different things we could cover with this, Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a great series. It provokes a lot of conversation. Yeah. I'm a historian. I like going back and talking about, you know, works from the past of people that I enjoy watching. And this is a great series. We definitely need to do some more. I think we should do at least one of these a month if we can do it.
Absolutely. Sounds good. So rest of the week, I do believe Collision After Dark's later on.
Yeah, we're gonna do the garage tonight, and our pal Canada Dry and I were talking about possibly doing a special recap of the Death of WCW show. So it's possible that he and I might do that on Tuesday night. We're still kind of working the details of that, but we might.
I would watch some real wrestling tonight and watch NXT Battleground because I think some interesting stuff's going to happen there.
I didn't even know there was an NXT Battleground. I don't regularly watch NXT, but I try to watch the Battleground shows because they're usually pretty good.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think there's going to be some interesting stuff going on tonight. But we'll
Okay.
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
to know.
And good luck. I want a massive shout out to Tate Mayfairs, who's on Collision tonight. I've spoke to the guy.
Yeah.
Guy's an absolute great in the ring, so good luck for that. And and I don't know obviously what the plans are for tomorrow for the All Left in Wrestling show. But if you guys want to support this show, you can head to. I've got a little idea for you. Why don't you scan this QR code? This will take you to our link tree where you can find all our socials on there: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Absolutely everything's there. We're getting with the times, Mr. Isaacs.
Absolutely. You can get a nice shirt. You can get this Steamboat Willie shirt that I'm wearing that I just got in the mail. Fantastic shirt. Steamboat Willie, of course, being in the public domain now, can be used. So we've got him flipping the middle finger here, the signature Effin' Wrestling logo. So get that out of ProWrestlingTees.com. It's a amazing shirt. There's other amazing shirts there too. If you like wrestling, support the cause.
Absolutely. And stay tuned. Like I said, I'm going to be posting more interviews which have been announced. Yeah, exciting times. I'm not sure what we're going to be going next week. I've got plenty of plans. But yeah, one final thing, Mr. Isaacs, you know this now. See us out to the outro.
I'll keep it short and sweet because I need to get off here in a second. But, guys, keep your head up. We all believe in you. We're all here for you. We're a community. We're here to help each other, support each other. I talked about how jiu-jitsu has helped my life. Find something that helps you in your life. Mentally feel better, physically feel better, and just try to enjoy your life, man. Don't stress about things. Don't take things too seriously. Try to find peace and harmony. That's really, really important. So put your fists in the air, guys. Just remember to keep fighting.